For those who do not know me, my name is Jerry Ivy. I'm president of the Houston County Historic Society, and we're going to have a really nice meeting tonight with the history of Tennessee Ridge. I'd like to thank Tennessee Ridge for letting us use their City Hall conference room or meeting room. And if you would, I'd like to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Randall Prince, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're going to switch things around tonight. We're going to do a program first, and then we'll do whatever business that we need to do. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Ms. Nina Finley, and I assure you thank you for coming up. And we hope everything goes good with you. So, Nina Finley, please.
I don't think I need this, do I? Is that clear? Okay. If you fall backwards, don't fall into a heavy oak chest with the door out. It kind of broke. The 4 ribs would that not break, just fracture. So friends in the hospital then got him moved to Signature to rehab so he can learn how to quit falling. So anyway, I was on for this and I thought Kay was going to do the whole thing, but if it's all right with you, I'm going to bring Tennessee Ridge up to early 1900s. And then Kay's going to pick it up there with all of her notebooks and pictures. And first off, when we decided to do this, and Tennessee Ridge paid the library $500, Friends of the Library, for me to do this. And then we sold it. And I know we sold about 200, maybe 300. I know we've gone out. Now, and before we get into this, the Friends of the Library decided to move out a closet and there's bits and pieces of these booklets that they're selling for, I think, $5 instead of $8. And I went through this from Tennessee Ridge. This is probably the most valuable thing. It's the tax rolls. It tells you what district they lived in and so on. Okay, let's go to Tennessee Ridge. I guess you would have to say the cotton gin inventor, Whitney, was really the cause of Tennessee Ridge. Now, the geologists and hunters, they found Tennessee Ridge before 1800 and had it on a map. And you can go read Tennessee Ridge signs, starts up in Kentucky, ends up in Virginia. Now, if this ridge hadn't been here, there'd been no Houston County. None. Been no Erie, no Tennessee Ridge, no Stewart, probably Danville, because that was a boat stop. What happened, you had, and I didn't realize this till the other day I was reading, New York was really heavily invested in South cotton plantations. And after Whitney's invention, New York was funneling money. They were running slaves to get them into Mississippi and all that to make cotton. Now, how that ties to Tennessee Ridge is they had to get cotton from the South to Massachusetts. That's where the big mills were for making cloth and so on. Now, the money wanted the railroad. Then they started trying to find out. You can find this in the Clarksville papers. And they started looking. Tennessee Ridge, there it goes. In a lot of places, it is steep. I mean, steep, where it couldn't go through Kentucky, the steep ridge. The railroad couldn't go through Dover, they tried there. Steep ridge. And then somebody realized that Wells Creek, they could come up Wells Creek, and the ridge wasn't real steep here. Go over, end up down at Danville. So the Tennessee Ridge caused the railroad to be here. Now, they start and build the railroad. They're selling lots, and people are there in Stewart, not much in Erin. And there's nothing at Tennessee Ridge. You can go to later on, up as late as 1900 census. And I went through the tax rolls, and there's no lots as late as 1900. Now, which is the oldest? Stewart, Erin, Tennessee Ridge. They all show up on the map, Civil War map, 1865, I believe. They're all there at the same time. And Civil War is over, and Tennessee Ridge is still sitting here. Stewart and Erin are getting people in. They've got lots. But Tennessee Ridge has got a grocery store, a small one. They've got a blacksmith shop and a tire yard. That's it. Now, Cumberland Iron Works, that's on Cross Creek between Bear Spring and Cumberland City. Now here we go with the beginning of Tennessee Ridge. Grant blew it up, it went bankrupt. Cumberland Iron Works had 60,000 acres. An English company bought Cumberland Iron Works on this side of the river, 30,000 acres. Built Bear Spring, furnished, rebuilt it. Then they are started needing to get their products to the railroad and bring in food and supply. So this English company built the railroad to Tennessee Ridge. Now all this is before 1900. Tennessee Ridge has still got a store and a blacksmith shop. That's all. Well, this English company has all this land. Middle States Land Company, and it's known. If you ever work on deeds, look for the name Kenneth Rosholt, R-O-S-H-O-L-T. Well, they have all this, what they call coaling lands. That's where they make charcoal. Oh, here's one thing, and it's somewhere in this area. It was somebody with TVA that was here, and they were renting some. Anyway, he called me and he says, I have found where a flying saucer landed. And I plowed my garden, and it's burnt underneath the dirt. And it's a perfect circle. I said, I think I know what you've got, but I'll come. That was where they had a charcoal mound, you know. And once they got it stacked in, then they took all the topsoil that they could find, raked it up, and piled that over so they could char the wood. So we didn't have a flying saucer land in Tennessee Ridge, but they have all this old red clay, very little topsoil, and this is 100 and damn years ago. So they decided they would sell it $25 down, most $25 a year. It got them about 30, 40 acres. Now, what you've got now is who's going to buy it? Now, this all started with the story of the postcard. And we've all heard it, but nobody can find one. These men were standing in a chest-high wheat field. Only they weren't in a chest-high wheat field. They were kneeling in a broom sage patch. So this went all over. And do you all remember Lori Hart, Sailor Hart's husband? One time, Jack was here, and a Mr. Lori was the one in charge of all this stuff. Now, he wasn't the con man and selling land, but he was more or less a supervisor. And I said, Jack, I think Mr. Lorry from England was a con man. Jack says, no, Mr. Lorry was a good businessman. And his dad was named for the Englishman. Now, I've got starved to death as a kid. So they had a cow, but they didn't have roof enough to get water, to water the cow and water them. You know where Dogwood Drive is? There's a big spring down at the bottom called Dogwood Spring. So they put a harness on the cow at Miss Alice Miles. They took cow and the jugs and walked her where the highway goes, down Dogwood Drive, down to the foot where the spring was. And then they filled up all their jugs and stuff. This was every morning, and brought their water and the cow's water back up here. So, now before I go, what questions do you have on this part? We still haven't got anybody here at Tennessee Ridge. 1900 tax rolls. Let's see, I went through this while I...
No,
Yeah.
if she was born here
Mm-hmm.
and she's 90, when do they start having people here?
Right after 1900. I mean, immediately. They haven't come in and bought property yet.
Yeah.
But it's a case at 1901 when they laid out the town.
1904, I think, is where we find the
Okay.
plat that they made the law.
Okay, it's 1904. Now, here are the names that I found in District 3 paying taxes in 1900. And when I read them off fast, you'll find there is no Scandinavian names here. So they are not here in 1900. A.G. Allison, Allen, Bauer, Coopridge. Now that would be down on Enterprise. Beasley, Bell, Bigham, not Brigham, Bigham. Boone, Buchanan, Busby, Campbell, Carter, Clark, Collison, Cook, Crosswell, Cumberland Lands Limited. Now that's the English company. French, Gill, Goodman, Hankins, Harris, Lou Allen, Lloyd, McLean, McIntosh, Mobley, Murphy, O'Gwen, Parker, Patterson, Pitt, Price, Pritchard, Ridings, Reeves, Robbins, Ross, Rushing, Scholes, Sinks, Southern Iron. That's a different concern. Cyber is what I've got it. Thompson, Tomlinson, Travis, Triplett, Van Hook, Williams, and Wilson.
Those all started in 1904? They were there in 1904?
No, these were here, they paid taxes in 1900. The names I just read off.
But the people weren't here.
Yeah, these people that I read
But I mean,
off.
that's a whole bunch of people to be here from nothing to
Now,
nothing.
this is District 3, which runs from Stewart County line to Uncas County line. But this is not, Danville is 1, District 1, Stewart is 2, Tennessee Ridge 3, Erin 4, and so on. So they're not here, but they're coming because of that doggone postcard. And this is God's country. So, but anyway, Kay has done everything. I got in contact with some people. Kay did. I should have brought that Jacobson thing. You got it? Okay. Ms. Jacobson, no, wait a minute. Not Writings, starts with an R. I found that one in Nashville. And it's been tracking them from one end. This one will say this. And so, anybody got any questions before Kay takes over? All right. Anybody want to go sit with Fred tonight? Thank you. Sorry to leave.
Give you my love.
I have Nina's book. This is how much I know about Tennessee Ridge. But I want you all to realize that Nina created a great book. I told her she started with the molehill and made a mountain. And you all don't realize what this lady does. You all know Nina. But she spends hours and hours and hours and hours researching when she gets ready to do something. And she kept saying, somebody like Clint, I'll point you out because your name was mentioned, will write a book about Tennessee Ridge. And when people had not, like your daddy and people like that, she finally decided she would do it. And at the library in 2004, I had a lady come in named Nancy Maynard. And she is with the Jacobsons. And I think there were 2 sets of Jacobsons. You people from Tennessee Ridge need to correct me, but I don't know that for sure. She came to the library to do research on Tennessee Ridge. And so we had the microfilm, but we didn't have much more. And we got a lot of information from them. Then I met through the internet a lady named Helen Leaf, L-E-A-F, in 2004 and 5, and up to 2011 when I finally met her. She had all of these wonderful pictures on Tennessee Ridge and the Lutheran Church. And from her I found out that the national religion in the Scandinavian countries was the religion, the Lutheran. But along came the Baptists, and they wanted to be there too. So that had been a rivalry between the Lutherans and the Baptists. So when they come to America, this rivalry still goes on in the Scandinavians. So we had a Tennessee Ridge Baptist church, the Swedish Baptist church, that was organized in 1905 with the Reverend S-A-N-D-H Sand was the preacher. And then along in 1908, the Lutheran Church wants Reverend Lee to come to Tennessee. But he doesn't want to come because he has an elderly father living with him, and he doesn't want to leave and to come to Tennessee. So after his father dies, he comes to Tennessee Ridge around 1910. So by 1914, they're building what we see now as the Tennessee Ridge Methodist Church. But at that time, it was the Lutheran Church. And he had Mr. Nels Christensen help build that church. And we have pictures of that. But Mrs. Leaf said that there was always a rivalry between the two religions. So that's probably why the Lutherans came here, is because they found out that the Baptists were at the Ridge. So we don't know that, but we think that. So no offense to you Baptists, I'm a Methodist. But anyway, we don't know that for sure. But over the years, I have gotten lots of information over here. I want to go over there and show you this. Nina says that, as she said, the beginning was the railroad. And that's what made us all have these little stops along the way, that we came here because of the railroad. And this really was, I guess, a scandal if we look at it that way, but maybe it was a nice thing that they advertised in Minnesota and Wisconsin and in the Scandinavian countries for these good people to come here because the land was so wonderful. And Jerry Jacobson, I think is the one that said his mother had the postcard. And he lives up here at Tennessee Ridge, right down the street from the school. And Ms. Frances Sykes gave me some information that's in the book. Mr. Vernon Mobley, Mr. Ray Mobley, Ms. Louise Markin, and Barbara McIntosh were some of them that gave me information along the way. And you all probably know about Tennessee Ridge. This is just a miniature of what Mr. Ray Mobley gave us, was the railroad track. And the markings along the way, they were at Tennessee Ridge. And you all have probably seen the map that Ms. Finley talked about that shows the little town of Tennessee Ridge and the lots. This is from microfilm. And this is from Mr. Miles. Do you remember Miss Alice Miles? Pam gave me the Anderson and the Mobley and the Marr family, M-A-R-R. Anybody remember them?
Yeah, she's been saying yeah on the whole bunch.
And I find this really interesting that when Miss Helen Leaf gave us this is the building of the Tennessee Ridge Church, which was the Lutheran church.
And that's the Tennessee Methodist, right?
And this is on the inside. And that, if you've all been in the Methodist church at the Ridge, there's a painting. And that painting was put in there by the Lutherans. So that's over 100 years old that's been in that church. And Miss Leaf told me that if she ever found out who did it or whatever, she'd send us the information, and she never did. But, or to my knowledge, she never did. But this was seen at Christmas. And Nina and I bought a Swedish dictionary at the library, and we tried to interpret it. And I got it to say, honor to God on the high, or something that didn't make sense. And then a lady wrote me back and said, that's His glory to God in the highest, which was probably Christmas. This is the Christmas tree and Christmas decorations. So she had these pictures. Remember, none of us have these pictures. These are with a lady in Moline, Illinois. And she sends them to me. And we haven't had them before. This is Pastor Leaf. I want you all to come see this with his Swedish Lutheran church and his family. They had an orchestra, mostly his family. And these are inside the Tennessee Ridge Church at that time. And in one of the things that Nina said was another woman that she met was one of these descendants, granddaughter. And she said her grandmother said she used to know Miss Robbie Lee. Well, Nina said she didn't know any Robbie Lee. But later she realized it was Robbie Lee Boone Simpson. And she had been very musical, and she played at the Cumberland Presbyterian Church. But anyway, these people went around the county, and there was a performance at Magnolia. There's an ad in here that she had that they were performing next Saturday, August the 7th. The Leaf Orchestra and Quartet would be appearing at Magnolia in around 1914 and 15. This turned out, she didn't know where it was, but Dickie Sykes helped me find this one. And I think Sydney at the library. This was just marked Tennessee, but this turns out to be the school that's up there right beside Mr. Brake's former house and across the street from Save-A-Lot.
She said she went to school there.
But Miss Leaf had this picture, not us, in Moline, Illinois. They had this one, which is the depot. She had this picture, which we didn't have. And there are several other pictures here from her. The Miss Maynard that was related to the Jacobson, the Marguerite Jacobson, was a school teacher in 1908 at the Tennessee Ridge Public School. And this is where some of the Swedish, or I don't know, people are coming, the Travises, the Stockards, the Ridings, the Jacobsons, Larson and Peterson, Potts, some of these, the names are on here. This would have been and she had this. So, you know, it's the people out there somewhere else that have our history. And it's always so wonderful when we make contact with them. She writes, Miss Maynard writes about her mother, the ancestor, I don't know whether mother, grandmother, whatever, says, are you taking me on? Okay. She was born in 1881 in Iowa. And they come here, I'm trying to see where she said this. We soon sold everything except our household belongings and landed at Tennessee Ridge, where Father bought some 360 acres, part of which was timber, some farmland, and an old peach orchard. It had 2 houses. The largest had an open hallway, strictly Southern style. It also had a large fruit house with a cellar under it, and there was a fair-sized barn. Mother was most unhappy when she saw it, and we were not, they were not happy here. It was a terrible setback, but there was nothing we could do now, only make the best of it, as most of our money was sunk in this property. We slaved and all worked very hard to clear off the brush and make the soil tillable, as it had lain idle for many years. Father had plainly been taken by this land agent.
What year did she talk about?
This is about 18, it's the turn of the century, 1900.
But they actually moved here, so that would have been before 1900?
Mm-hmm. And when you read some of these letters, they were all tricked into coming here. I guess they were adventuresome, they were pioneers, they wanted to come to a better land.
So there actually were people here before 1900, they just weren't paying taxes.
They were here in Tennessee Ridge, but not, you didn't have this town.
Yeah, you didn't have the town.
You were here at this
Yeah.
county. You were in the county, there was no town.
Yeah.
There was no town.
What year was the railroad put in?
1865 is when it was completed, just in time for the war, for them to blow it up again, right, man? Well, 1864, 65, they finished down.
Construction was 1858, I think it was running by 1860, 61.
About the time it was going good.
Because it, yeah,
They blew it up.
well, it did cross the river because the Confederates burned the bridge after Fort Donelson fell. So it was before February 62.
Because they were in Cumberland City in 1858.
A lot of
They were
them
moving this way.
because of the railroad.
This is the, again, Miss Leaf said, I have this, and the Reverend Leaf kept every piece of paper he had. His records were, unfortunately, a lot in Swedish and a lot in English. But this was from the bulletin, and it talks about the dedication in 1915 of the first Swedish Lutheran church in the state of Tennessee. And it was formally dedicated, and they have all of these important dignitaries that have come, and it goes on for 2 or 3 days, and it tells about it in here. And then on the back, Ms. Leaf told us about when Mr. Leaf had the deed, it was in 1912, and then in 1920, they're selling, they're buying stuff, and this K. Rosholt was the one that was with that middle, whatever, the scam people. They honestly bought this land, but then sold it on false pretenses. You couldn't grow anything at Tennessee Ridge. I don't think. But they had an orchard, so they made an orchard. And you know about the orchards. You had a cannery up here. And they had a great season, it says, about tomatoes. First season, they were going to build a second cannery. They had one, they were going to build another one. First season had a great tomato crop. So much. It just tells about how wonderful it was. And then the next year they were going to build another one. They were going to have these big orchards, and they were going to sell all these great things. But those of us who live here now know that we can have a winter that's really okay, and then we can have a spring that's really bad, and it'll kill your blooms. And that's what happened to these orchards. Typical Tennessee Ridge weather, even back then. So this is the deed book that she referred to, and this is when they are recording it and saying this is city lots, and this is February 1904 that it's recorded, so that these little lots and these little streets that we see now were being created. This little part right down there, not right here, but right down there. So if you want to come up and look, if you have any other questions, in more recent history, the Methodist Church, and they start in a potato house, is that right? The old potato house in 1918, and then in 1922, when they leave here, the Lutherans leave, they sell it to the Methodist Church in 1922. When they take possession of the building, it's 1922. Then this, you all may not remember it, but I do remember it because there was a great rivalry in my childhood between Aaron and Tennessee Ridge and the ball game. But in 1962, this became a city. And this is Clint's daddy with Mr. Vernon Fellows. And they had just been named this tiny town of 324 souls after 24 months in existence as Tennessee's third smallest incorporated town has sparked an entire county into a livelier existence. And they were winning awards and so forth and so on, and we were the best little town under 1,000. So that was in 1962. And then I'll turn it over to Clint. He wants to tell, this is Clint when he was mayor in 1981. You're a big metropolis by then, aren't you? We're now bigger than Erin.
Yeah.
In the latest census, we are.
Population's bigger.
Population, the city of Tennessee Ridge is now bigger than the city of Erin, but just a little bit. But that's come a long way, right? So you can come up here and see some of their letters, but Mr. Jerry Jacobson gave me a whole bunch of stuff, and his family was the family of the Reverend Sand, which is the Baptist. And Miss Leaf is giving me stuff that's the Lutheran, and they're at each end, but they were evidently friends because they have pictures of them and the children. And Bert Mobley, you all remember Bert Mobley?
Yes.
And there are pictures of him in here and several others. And I have the Anderson family. This is the deed with his family. This is Ruth Leaf and Bert Mobley. She's washing his hair in the backyard. I don't know. I don't know.
It's wonderful that they had all those pictures and they were kept.
And Miss Gladys Buchanan was one of the children. You all know Miss Gladys Buchanan? She's in the nursing home.
Yeah.
But
Hey, what was the name of the land agent?
the one that was doing Rochelle, R-O-S-H-O-L-T.
Ms. Kay, pause just for a minute, will you please?
Further information, write to the Swedish Lutheran Colonization Society, Tennessee Ridge. And it goes on some of the things that they did interpret for us. But now, the preacher wasn't trying to take anybody. He was just really trying to get the Scandinavians to come here because they were going to colonize up here. Is anybody Swedish? There you are. You're one of the families. Yeah, you're in here. The Ellisons. They came here in the 1920s.
27.
Okay, 1927. And the Stockards were here, though, before the Ellisons. Miss Marie told me that.
I am going through the food down here and getting some water stuff. And I ran into this girl down there, and she said that she thinks that she's Swedish heritage. I will have to ask her.
She's from Tennessee Ridge.
Well, if she's got it.
Well,
If
these
she
were from
comes back.
Minnesota.
Yeah, if she comes back.
But after Miss Leaf was telling us the different families, the different connections, we're talking about 1904, 1910, 1914, all these different families that have married in to other families that are here, that have got these connections. So it's interesting to see, you know, this Fred Fellows came with some of the others. He wasn't Scandinavian, but he came here and thought he was, they think he was a friend of some of them, and that's why he came here. And Vernon Fellows and Alice Brown and that bunch would be descendants of that one, if you all ever knew Arthur and Alice Brown. You did, didn't you?
She's just been
Do
sitting
you
here
have
saying
anything you want to say, because you were here? And you're 90.
I was born in 24.
And she was born in 1924.
Yeah.
But your people came here, or were they?
Well, see, my dad is from New York State. He didn't come here until he was grown.
And when did he come here?
Huh?
When
His
did
folks
he?
moved here. and bought Pascal Mall, the old place out there, you know where it was at?
Mhm.
Well, that's where they moved to when they came here.
Well,
And
you
that's
got,
where I live now.
you want to tell us some of the things? We had the cannery and the depot, and we had
I
the
don't-
grocery
see, I don't
stores.
remember that, that was my mama's time.
So,
Well, didn't you say you got
Nina
some
just dumped
pictures
this on me this afternoon, and I said,
She's
Nina,
not
please come do
finished.
this. And she said no, but she has a lot on her plate.
Yes, she does.
And if you all, they, I think, still have some of these books for sale. And Nina just did a valuable thing for our county. I can never thank her enough for all she's done to write these books. And it's a gift that she gave to the library. She didn't take any money for it. And I had hoped it would be a perpetual gift. I don't know whether you all, I'm not there anymore, so I don't know whether they'll still be available later or not. So they're still there, well, you know, when you run out of print, if you'll reprint them. That's the problem, that once they're gone, they're gone.
Didn't she write 20, is it 27 books?
She's written 27 books, and I don't know who's going to follow her when she gets tired of doing this. Because our history... No. But it's remarkable. See it, join in. You all know more about this place than I do.
May I buy that book tonight?
Pardon?
May I buy that book tonight?
Mm-hmm.
Put my name on there.
All right. I got some more in the car.
Bring another one.
But it's a very interesting read, and what Nina wanted everyone to know when she did this is that we begged everybody, you know, please, do you know anything about this? Well, those people were gone. By the time we got around to saying, let's write this, the grandchildren were left. And you know, as grandchildren, our grandchildren are us.
Okay, do you have the ones that Nina brought from the library?
I have
Oh,
this is it.
your copy.
This is a copy for sale that I have in my hand.
How many more do you have?
I don't know, 5 or 6.
Okay, that's what I'm getting to. As of last week, there were only 5 left. So I'm thinking that.
So if you want a history on Tennessee Ridge, you better get it now, or there won't be any more in print, unless they decide to reprint them. And the city of the city of Tennessee Ridge helped Nina even, you know, print
Is
it.
there anything written about the families that came when the railroad came here? I think LC's family came because of the railroad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Baggett is here on page 37.
Okay. Okay, to help out Sandra here in her inquiry, is there's a book in the library called L&N, The Memphis Line, written by a man's last name is Mize, and they mention several names, even though it was before the L&N started, when it was the Clarksville, Memphis, and Louisville Railroad that built this railroad, not L&N.
And I also had another book from Mr. Bell. You remember Mr. Bell?
Yeah.
And he, I had asked him questions about the railroad. And he gave me an excellent booklet with all the pictures of the depots and all of the ones that were the men in charge and the date that they opened and the date that they closed. And it's a wonderful wealth of information about just our local little county that's in there. That Mr. Ira Lee is deceased, but before he died, he did that for us. But we've just touched the surface. There are names in here that were in the census. This Mr. Sand's daughter married the Dan Mobley, and the Mobleys, you know, all the descendants from them. And they're already here. I think the Mobleys were here, right? They were here. But Sheila said she was an Anderson descendant. So,
My Aunt Mary.
and this is Peter and Mary Anderson.
That's my relative.
That's them, and then I have the names of the people that lived in Tennessee Ridge from 1900 to 1930 that she put an asterisk by more than one family or many. There were many Andersons, and I can't say these names because my last name is French, and my maiden name is Lowry, and I don't know how to pronounce these Scandinavian names. I can say Ellen. But there's S-H-E-H-A-M. The Swansons, we know they were here. The Smiths were here. They're still here. Descendants of the Sands are still here. S-O-D-E-R-Q-U-I-S-T. Langstrom. L-O-W-A-N. Lofston, Lindell, Lawal. They're gone now. These people are not here. The Scandinavians came and they left for the 1920s. Some of them did.
And nobody knows where they went.
Back to Minnesota.
Back to Minnesota.
It was a little bad for them.
They wanted to go freeze.
Okay, some of those folks that are still here are buried in Grave Arch Cemetery.
Yes,
And the cemetery book has so many of those names in that cemetery book.
right. She's got the names in here. So, any other questions that I can look in the book and give you the answer? Sid, yes.
And Cooney.
Oh, the K-U-N-I. Yes, Nina said that years ago that when Mitchum told her that there was a Miss Cooney.
Yeah.
That was the
She delivered babies.
midwife, or whatever, delivered the babies. But she said when she looked into it, it wasn't like, she was thinking you saying Cooley, like Cooley Ford, but it was Cooney, K-U-N-I. And it says in her book that she was a nurse that came here from Finley. We don't know why, she didn't know why. But when she died, they fixed her a monument.
She delivered all.
She delivered me.
Oh! Well, they said that she delivered most babies between 1920s and 30s in Tennessee Ridge. And that when she died, the people gave her, fixed a monument for her at her grave.
She said she delivered her babies. She could be there.
K-U-N-I. Did she ever tell you why she came here? No. That's what we always get. No,
Maybe
no.
she saw that postcard.
She may have seen it, but she was from Finley. And I don't know whether she was Baptist or Lutheran. I don't know.
She did own a little house over there with her.
Okay.
Where the dollar store is where her house is.
She's at the Grave Barn Cemetery. And a lot of the Scandinavians are at the Grave Barn. Grave Barn.
We got mine's Florence.
R-A-Y, just R-A-Y-B-A-R-N.
Mine's Florence.
And her brother, her parents are there. Her father there. And she mentions him in the book because his grave is marked with the mailbox.
Yeah.
And why is it marked with the mailbox?
Daddy was a mail carrier. He was a mail
So
carrier.
there's a mailbox.
And the mail carrier was gave him to us when he died.
Oh my gosh.
Did you hear that, Kate? When he died, they gave Les Harris gave him that, you know, as a flower. And so they put him in.
I have pictures up here from Miss Francis that she gave me in Tennessee Ridge. And so y'all come up and look at that. And I'm sorry this has not been that in-depth.
I thought it was good.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kay. All right, we'll take care of our business now real fast. Ms. Betty, do you have a financial report that you'd like to do?
We have in our checking account about $3,988.77. I had written since we met back $100 for the Lions Club for their football program and $50 for our post office box rate. and I deposited some money for books and for dues, which was $80. Our memorial account has a balance of $1,703.05. Our CD is $10,610.
Thank you, Ms. Betty. Did everybody receive their minutes? If you're members of the Historic Society, you'll either receive your minutes through the mail or you'll receive them through email. So has everybody received them? If you haven't, raise your hand. And if you'd like to have our minutes, there's some new faces here tonight. If you'll see Miss Betty and join the Historic Society, which is a nominal fee of $10 per year per family, you will start receiving the emails or the mail. I had a proposal of seeing if the Historic Society would sponsor again for the leadership for 2014-2015. We'll pick somebody. I think we have an idea of.
I'll second it if you want the motion.
Okay, I think we have an idea of who we're going to pick. So Alan said that I can't make the motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Danetta said she'd make the motion, and Alan said that he would second it. Everybody in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Deborah? Okay, let's see if there's any other minutes or anything. Is there any old business that we need to take care of? Since it's kind of a spur of the moment, we'll go on to that. New business is just the leadership. The next meeting is September the 9th, and it's Billy Frank Morrison. He was the president of the Historic Society from Montgomery County. He's going to do a program on postcards. And he has a collection of over 500,000 postcards. And he wrote 3 books on it. He has some pertaining to our area, and a lot in Clarksville and so on. So it will be an interesting program. And it's going to be at 7 o'clock, September 9th at Erin City Hall. We're going to move back down to Erin next month. So hope to see everybody there. Melissa, would you like to do our times report, please? I didn't forget.
Like Jerry said, there's a lot of new faces here, so I'll introduce myself. I'm Melissa Barker. I'm the Houston County Archivist. Our archives is located in the basement of the courthouse. We've only been there for 4 years, and we manage the county records, which are the government records, but we also collect and manage historical records. So I'm so glad that Kay brought this, because I'm asked all the time, what kind of records do you take? Because we take records donations. Anything on this table we would take. So, you know, if you are cleaning out things and you find documents or something, please don't throw them away. Bring them to the archives, because that's the only way we're going to save our history. We're the only repository in the county that saves records. And we keep them, we process them, we put them in an archival fashion so they'll last for generations to come. So please remember us when you're doing that. I usually like to give an update on what's going on in the archives. We are working still on our off-site storage area, which is in the basement of the old jail, up on Jail Hill. We have got our shelving up, and we're in the process now of getting ready to move the old records that we have stored in the jail cells down so that we can see what we have and go through those. One thing I brought with me, since we were talking about Tennessee Ridge and the Scandinavians, just this past week, we've been processing the county court records. Now, before, the county court actually handled probate and juvenile records way back when. Up to a certain point, the probate records went to the Chancery Court, the juvenile records went to Circuit Court. So these are up to a certain point, and they stop. But in 1951, there is an estate and probate file for John Swanson, which was Tennessee Ridge name. And within this file, we found original power of attorneys from Sweden. They're actually from Sweden. They are marked with a seal from Sweden. And so I found it interesting that even in 1951, we still have Scandinavians in our archives. So that was really interesting. I did have a lady you all know, Miss Joyce Triplett, come by the archives this last week. looking for information on the Tennessee Ridge Baptist Church. She said they're fixing to celebrate their 100th anniversary. And so if any of you have anything, pictures, information, documents, anything, please get with Joyce Tripler or someone in the church. They're looking for documents, I guess, to put on display at their anniversary. So she asked for that. I have 2 or 3 dates of some things that are coming up that are very historical in nature. The first one, which I'm very excited about, is September the 6th at the library. This is going to be our Meet the Author for the month, and it's Manoa Uppelman. She is the history professor at Austin Peay. She and another lady, and her name escapes my mind, have edited a book about Nanny Haskins' diaries, which Nanny Haskins, if you don't know, was a young 16-year-old girl during the Civil War who kept diaries about her experiences and what she saw in Clarksville. She will be at the library, and she'll be talking. She'll bring books to sell. And she is also a local author. She's from Houston County, so we encourage that.
What's the date and time again?
It is September the 6th. It's a Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon at the library. The next one, which I know you will be very interested in, is Miss Ann Hagler is getting her book published. October the 3rd is her book signing at the Erin Methodist Church, and I'm not sure the time. I'm not sure the time. I'm thinking it's an afternoon or evening
4 to
time.
6.
4 to 6. 4 to 6. And so she's another local, and she has gotten her book published. We all know it's about the murder of her ancestor there on the corner in Erin, so that will be exciting. For those of you that are interested in the Brunson Hollister saga, as I call it, we are having our next meeting this Friday at 5:30 at the library. We meet, if you're interested, you're welcome to come. It's open to the public. We are still discussing the process of working with TBA. And last but not least, I teach a free genealogy class every month, and our next one will be August 26th at 5 o'clock at the library. So please come, it's free, and we talk about researching your history. And so, but thank you very much. And come see us in the archives, and don't throw anything away, please. Donate it to the archives. Always, people say, you're going to get your trash. I said, it's okay.
What'd you bring in your folder? What'd you bring in your folder?
This was something else that was donated. Miss Robin Freeman, Miss Robin Osbrooks Freeman. It's another example of people asking me, well, what do you take? And it's pretty much anything, whatever I can fit in that room. And so she brought me old Harper's Bazaars from 1913. The fashions in here are just crazy. But I'm going to leave them here on the table if you're welcome to look at them. But like I said, just don't throw anything away. If you know anybody, don't let them throw it away. Just bring it to me in your garbage bags, whatever, we'll go through it. Because so much has been lost. A lot's been thrown away. A lot's been discarded. And so we're desperately trying to reclaim and save. And I'll actually tell you one more thing before I quit. I watch eBay pretty regularly. And there's a lot of people that sell things on there that's from our county. And a lot of them are like envelopes that are postmarked from here. I have gotten 2 people to donate these envelopes because they didn't sell. That were postmarked from the 1800s. And I contact them and say, I'm sorry, I'm poor, I don't have a budget in my archives. Can you please donate these if these don't sell? And I've received 2 this way. They've been very generous to get these things back to where they came from. So, thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Is there anything else anybody would like to bring up? Yes, Alan.
Of course, this is a great turnout tonight, but it's not surprising because it's such a fact. Have we ever considered having a booth or exhibit at the fair, at the county fair? The reason I say that is a lot of people might come through the fair and we have some things there and we can have people join us. This is fascinating. A lot of people don't even know it's here and do not know the subject matter, contact, what we do. And that's a good way to get some exposure, and we can display. Melissa could help us display some items that will be nice and interesting. I mean, we do agriculture, we do a lot of things at the fair. Why not talk about our history? And even if not this, the history of the fair. It goes back many, many years. Just as a suggestion, it's maybe too late this year, but maybe next year we can put together something. I think it would be interesting for our people to come to the fair.
Thank you, Alan. Would anybody else like to say?
Thank you, Terry. Last month, there was an announcement of the Vanderbilt Ingram Cancer Clinic associated with the Courage Unmasked. I have found several more masks in the county, and those owners and ones that have used those, and to refresh some of your memory, is that they're being used now to make a art exhibit and will be auctioned off to support the financially needy people who have head and neck cancer. So there's several right here in Houston County. And if anybody has any of those masks that would like to contribute, and mine is being worked on right now at the local artist, Ms. Janet Phelps. Anybody wants to go by and give her some pointers or an idea? I know you want to just blank my face out. But nevertheless, it's going well, and sadly to say, we don't really want these things, but they're a necessary tool for the cure of cancer, as some of us have been done. And if anybody hears of anyone using one, and thank you, I've got an idea on one tonight from someone. Thank you.
Thank you, sis.
Give me a call.
Anybody else got anything they want to bring up? If not, we're going to close the meeting. I sure do appreciate everybody showing up, and hope to see you next month, September the 9th at here in City Hall at 7. Thank you.